Hello and welcome to our Cornwall Hospice Care podcast, Two Old Choughs, a tale of two hospices. I'm Tamsin Thomas and this old chough is flying solo today as we celebrate Volunteers Week and we talk to some of those who make a huge difference to our charity by giving us not a gift of money but a gift of time. So gathered around the table today, we've got Sue. Now Sue is a volunteer in the fundraising department. Annette is an administrative volunteer at Mount Edgecombe Hospice. And Pauline is a volunteer from our wonderful St Blaise charity shop. And then just to give some spice to our conversation, we've got Frazer Hopkins, who's our head of retail. And we'll explain why Frazer's here in a moment. But why volunteer? Why give that gift of time? Pauline, would you like to kick us off by explaining what brought you to Cornwall Hospice Care?
Yes, I worked full-time in local government for 41 years and busy life, and I retired, and then we bought a spa shop in Padstow, actually, busy in the shop front. And then we sold that after about 6 years. And then I completely had nothing going on in my life. There's only so much gardening and cleaning and all you can do. And my friend still is Sue, manager of the St Blaise shop. I saw her one day and she said, why don't you just come down and see if you like a few hours a week just helping in the shop. And I honestly can say I started down there in 2008, so I'm in my 40th year there, and I absolutely think it's a wonderful thing if you've got a few hours per week. That's all it takes, minimum 4 hours. You can do a second session, another 4 hours if you can, but it's just giving something back. You meet new friends, new network of people that we have a lot of locals that come in our shop. It's a very, very busy shop,
oh, yes.
And especially the summertime. And Foy, a lot of Foy people that I went to school in Foy, and they all come in. And it's a really sociable, happy, just wonderful place to be. And at the end of the morning, you go home and you think, gosh, it's been really, really a successful morning monetary-wise. We take some really good income there. And you're giving something back, which is something that the hospice definitely needs at this moment.
And I might add, you have fun. Because
Definitely.
Whenever I go into the St Blaise shop,
Super.
I don't think I've ever been in when there hasn't been someone laughing.
Absolutely. We're all such a happy bunch. And I've met people, other volunteers. We swap around. If you can't do one day, you do another day. If you're on holiday, you make up some other days. So you meet different people all the time, and we're all just a happy bunch, and we just totally enjoy our sessions there. Whether it's one or two, it doesn't make any difference. You're just a happy bunch, and we absolutely love it.
That's a lovely way of describing it. So hopefully people are listening now
Absolutely.
and saying, oh, I wouldn't mind doing that.
That's right.
Sue, what about you? What brought you to volunteering?
Well, much the same, really. Worked full-time for 40 years and retired, and felt lost, to be honest, and felt I still had things to give to people, that I still had a brain. And sometimes when you say to people you're retired, they say, oh dear, dearie, and they speak to you as if you haven't got a brain. Cornwall Hospice Care was obviously very dear to my heart, and I just decided that I bumped into one of my ex-students, who in fact is retiring today, which makes me feel very old. And she said, would you like to come and see if you've got computer skills we could do with someone to help us? And I jumped at the opportunity. It gave me something good to think about every week, and felt I was doing something good. Cornwall Hospice Care is a local charity. I wanted to work for somebody where all the money stayed in the area, and so I've thoroughly enjoyed my time. And at the moment, with Joe leaving, I seem to have picked up counting tin money for Sarah, which I find actually very enjoyable, except I never get it to balance. and she's never cross with me.
She can't be. You're a volunteer. You're very precious. I admire you counting tin money. That's actually it's very therapeutic, isn't it? Sometimes to count. And what about you, Annette? What brought you to Cornwall Hospice Care?
Not too dissimilar from the other two. I was in public health career for 35 years and left and thought I'm going to do nothing. I don't want to do anything. So I had about a year of doing very little. Primary reason for giving up at 60 was I had an elderly dad, and the job was to become a bit more of a carer for him instead of trying to squeeze things in and juggle things when hospital appointments came up. Sadly, he passed away, so that brought me to the hospice shop on quite a regular basis while I was dealing with his belongings. Met the manager downstairs and said, not ready yet, but in a few months' time, do you think there might be something I could do? But I didn't want to be front of house, I wanted to be in behind the scenes. And I did sit on my laurels for about another 6 months. And then I thought, no, I'm getting a bit bored now, getting a bit fed up. And was worried, like you, Sue, that my brain was starting to addle a bit. I was forgetting things, and I was always such a very organised person. And I thought, this isn't me, I need to get my brain into gear here. So I came down, picked up an application form, submitted it saying I wanted an admin role, and that very evening, down the pub, reading the Cornish Guardian, and there was an advert for admin volunteers for Cornwall Hospice Care. So I thought, oh, okay, so they want volunteers. Anyway, I got a quick response. Came, had my meeting with the people that were then coordinating the volunteer services, and started work. But unfortunately, that was March the 16th. 2020. So it was sort of a stop-go. Sat at home again then for however long it was. But got a phone call then from Jenny over at the hospice in the volunteer services. Was I still interested? She'd heard that I might be interested in doing some admin work, and the rest is history. I'm still there now. I've been stop-go a little bit during the last 12 months.
Haven't we all?
Yeah.
But it's done everything I wanted it to do. It's getting me out, I'm meeting people. I have a structure to my week again now, so you don't know whether it's Saturday, Wednesday. Apart from bin day, you don't know any other day of the week, you know? So,
And I forget bin day quite often.
True.
well, they've just changed mine, so that's even more confusing. But yeah, you're meeting people. I'm working in a team. I've always been a team worker. Even though my career was medical, therapeutic, I've always had an admin lilt. So I'm enjoying enormously doing all the admin tasks. And also not having to be the leader. Just being the person that turns up, is given a task to do, and gets the enjoyment and the pleasure going home at the end of the shift thinking, well, I achieved that, or next time I go in, I'm going to do that. And there's always something to be done. I mean, there'll never be a shortage of work, I'm sure.
No.
So that's it, really.
And I think it's a challenge also, and it keeps, like you say, your brain really active.
Yeah.
We've had this new computer till, which a lot of people were really, in awe of. They don't like it at all. But I felt, yes, I'm in my 70s, but I'm going to really learn the new procedures. It's so different to the old system. But it gives you such a feeling of self-worth, really. You go home and think, crikey, I did that today, and I balanced at the end of the morning, and luckily for me.
Can I leave now?
But it works out quite simple, and it just gives you a good feeling that you're not over the hill, like you say. Our brains aren't dead.
I blame it on the coin counter, actually. It's not me. Nothing to do with me.
Thoroughly recommend.
Did you start volunteering because you wanted to give Cornwall Hospice Care something? Or did that really not play a part at the time?
Yes.
It did,
Yes.
yes. I've lost several members of family out there. My husband died 5 years ago there. I know I was starting many years before that, but it was always someone I knew perhaps was out there receiving fantastic support and care, loving care, nursing care. Yeah. And I do think that was the basis of it. I mean, there were so many charities, I'm into animals, and I did think, the RSPCA perhaps need help, and the air ambulance, but it's just the hospice just needs it so much, I feel, and for the wonderful work they do out there. So yes, it did.
Yeah, there was no question in my mind. My husband died 22
years
years ago as a young man at the hospice.
Did he? Really?
And so really there was only one charity that ever cropped up in my mind. I did look at the air ambulance, but I was looking at charities, as I say, where money stays in Cornwall.
Yes.
And felt that the hospice was certainly the one that was the dearest to my heart.
Agreed.
So, I mean, the care they give is phenomenal.
And I think that's the same applies with some of the staff you meet. You know, my goal was always eventually to work, if I could, for Cornwall Hospice Care, because they care for my mum. And it's interesting, you know, when you start talking to people, just how many people have been touched by the charity in some way.
Absolutely.
I think we all have.
I think everybody has.
My daddy died when I was 18, and it was a couple of years before the hospice opened.
Oh wow.
And I often reflect now, and I think how different, you know, the end would have been if there'd been something like the hospice. But during my work, I've also linked in with the hospice a lot when I've been treating people or working with people that are end of life, so I knew what it could do. And like you said earlier, Sue, you know that you're supporting something that is Cornish and something that is there for the Cornish people. And there are loads of national charities we could be supporting, but you can only give to what you feel is dearest in your heart, can't you?
That's right.
And of course the other thing is, I think if you enjoy it and you're committed, you land up, and particularly our volunteers, being ambassadors.
Definitely.
Because I've definitely heard ladies in the shops talking to people because they've asked a question about what does a hospice look like or whatever else.
Yeah.
And that must be quite interesting too. I bet you get into some really maybe difficult but certainly interesting conversations.
You open people's eyes to it, really. And to be honest, I've lost count of the number of people that have come in and asked me, you know, do you want volunteers? Can we give a few hours? So we give them the application form and it comes back, and most of those have come in, and for some reason or other they've moved away, or one or two have passed away, unfortunately. So there's always a need for it, but we get a lot of recruitment through the shop, really, just asking, because they come in and the shop, I feel, is laid out beautifully. We've got little soft music playing and it's clean and tidy, it's lovely. And it just encourages people to come in and say, you know, can we give a hand as well? And we've done quite a bit of that over the last few years, just speaking to people and passing the word across. So I think that's a big thing.
I know a lot of people have missed it, because one of my first tasks when I started over working with Jenny was to make contact with all the volunteers during lockdown, just letting them know we were still there, and that, you know, if they wanted to talk to anyone, or just to let them know what was happening, updating on what the plans were for possible reopenings and scaled down staffing levels and things like that. And everybody I spoke to was saying the same thing. They couldn't wait to get back, or a little bit apprehensive. Maybe I'll wait till the spring, or maybe I'll wait and see if there's a vaccine. But nobody said to me, no, forget it, take me off your records. Nobody said that.
No.
You know, and it was... I enjoyed the phone conversations. That was the one bit I wasn't expecting, because it was like not face to face, but you know, you're making that personal connection with somebody you don't know. But I slipped back into my old mode of as I used to be when I used to visit people in their homes, and I really enjoyed the conversations. And what was heartening to me was at the end of the conversation, so people would say to me, well, thank you ever so much for that phone call. I've really enjoyed that chat. Because we were all in lockdown. I mean, I was being allowed to go over to the hospice, but short of that, I was in lockdown at home, not speaking to anybody.
That's exactly.
So, you know, we would chat about anything, and I was quite happy to sit on the phone and chat to them, you know, just to be that connection for them. Really.
That's right. And we find in a small place like St Blaise Parr, you get a lot of mixed ages, really, lonely people. And they all say to me, oh, we come in here for a chat and meet other people, and that's their weekly thing. And a lot come in on a Wednesday morning. I think the first name terms, and you start chatting, and they hang around. They always do manage to buy something, luckily, but it's good for them to come in at a social situation, you know, that they can look forward to perhaps weekly, just to get them out.
Which makes you wonder, we all missed being at work, whether we're volunteers or staff, because we're working from home or whatever. You know, what about all those people who support the charity, they shop, they come to the fundraising events, Sue, or they come into the hospice for one reason or another, it makes you wonder just how tough it's been for a lot of people.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like now over at the hospice, the visiting has changed a little bit. It's relaxed a little bit, and you can hear the relief in some of the relatives because more people can come in and see their loved ones. You know, because before when I was over there last year, it was a lot more restricted, and I think working over there has actually also opened my eyes a little bit more to actually what you were saying just now, how the hospice operates and what goes on over there. As a clinician, I knew a little bit. But I was always over there for focused ideas. You know, I didn't see what went on around on the periphery, and it's been really interesting being over there. And I do well. You know, I value being over there and being part of that team. Doing my little
And the
bit.
same must go for you, Sue, because I presume you were held at arm's length for a while. Well, fundraising
Absolutely.
ground to a halt, didn't it?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I'm used to my own company after all these years, but I did miss the actual camaraderie when you came to work. I don't mean I'm sitting laughing all day with you know people in the office, but I just missed the knowing I was coming to work on a Monday. Gave me, like you say, the focus for the week. You knew what day of the week it was, and weekends, strangely, can be very lonely when you're on your own. I don't know why the weekend should be any different, but
I don't like Sundays.
I don't like Sundays.
I
My worst
looked
day.
No reason
forward,
to.
actually, on a Sunday, knowing I was going to go to work on a Monday, and so it's been quite difficult, actually. And I wasn't sure if I was going to come back in the beginning. I didn't know if they would want me for a start, but having spoken to various people, they seem to appreciate. I think that also is something. You're appreciated. You feel wanted.
Definitely.
You feel you have achieved something at the end of the day. So
And there's something, isn't there, about routine. We were talking about it the other day. We were all going out to work at one of the shops, and the excitement about the fact we were going to get up and get dressed into smart work clothes, and we were going to drive to somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, a year and a half ago, you took that as the norm, and now there's this whole,
Absolutely.
ooh, it's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
I think that thing about getting up and having a purpose in the morning, it's too quickly. Oh, it's only 8 o'clock. Oh, it's only 9 o'clock. You know, oh, I'll have a cup of coffee, and the day was just drifting. Whereas now, you know, like you said, on the day when you're doing your shift, bound out of bed, shower, like you say, raid the wardrobe, the bit of the wardrobe
right.
that hasn't seen fresh air for so long. You
There's
know,
a purpose, isn't
And,
there,
yeah,
to get
a bit
up
of
and
makeup
out.
on. You know,
That's
and-
right. Else you just
Yeah.
slouch around all day and means nothing, does it? Just to stay home all day. I remember when our shop was closed, as everyone else was. We were ringing each other up, the volunteers. They're all friends, and we'd ring Sue. We'd say, "Oh, Sue, when are we coming back? You know, we want the shop to open." And poor old thing, I'm not yet. No, nothing yet. And then we'd follow it on the news, and we were all so over the moon to think we were starting again next week. You know, and. Reduced amount in, of course, and of course no donations in the shops makes a lot of difference. Gives you a lot more time to clean and make the shop look really presentable, because it just gets delivered to the shop twice a week now by the van. No people are donating personally, and it does make a difference. But we were all absolutely lost when the shop was closed. We were just dying for it to open again. Now it is, and it's pretty good. Pretty busy.
It's really interesting. 2 key words there: feeling lost,
Yeah.
and then having that purpose, that sense of purpose. That's extraordinary. You're listening to Cornwall Hospice Care's podcast, Two Old Choughs, A Tale of Two Hospices. We're talking about volunteering today. It's a really important part of our charity, and I'm joined by 3 of our volunteers, Sue, Annette and Pauline, but also by Frazer, who is our head of retail. And Frazer, the reason that you're invited in, because you're not a volunteer, is actually to talk about just how important volunteers are to our charity. First and foremost, it saves a fortune, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it's an existential thing for the organisation. We could not do what we do without the people here today and the huge team that we've got across the shop network. So it's absolutely true. We would not exist. The profit wouldn't exist without our volunteer team. So it's got to follow that moment. Actually, sitting here for this length of time, listening to the conversation, I think, gosh, how do I, as an employee, follow that? Because it's inspirational. It's fantastic to hear and to see the impact, and because from my perspective, I know that we couldn't do anything without the people around us. But to hear that it's giving something to them as well, it's a really inspirational thing.
That sense of purpose, that's something I've that it makes you realise that there is such a value to someone, not just from the perspective of the charity saving money, but for everybody, for people and their health and their happiness.
And I think that's wonderful, isn't it? It's great to think that it can have so many purposes. So volunteering means different things to different people. So we've got different examples of areas of the hospice where our volunteer teams work, obviously in the shop network, in the fundraising, in the administration as well. So it shows the breadth of opportunity that's there and the connections on different levels. I find the whole thing extraordinarily inspiring. I've just been in one of our shops this morning talking to some volunteers, and it's always it's genuine. That is the word of the day, I guess, is inspirational, because you hear what they do and what they bring on a daily or weekly basis, but it's wonderful to know that they get something back in return that's beneficial to them.
So what do our volunteers bring in terms of what they're doing to support your department, which is a really vital department, in that without the money you raise, there aren't two hospices?
Well, absolutely. So, I mean, if I put the context in, we're aiming this year to do just shy of £1 million of net profit contribution into the hospice coffers. So, obviously, we have to turn over several millions of pounds to generate that amount of profit. That's a big undertaking. In 2019 and 20, we sold 1.4 million donated items. So this is a large-scale
Pauline,
operation.
Isn't it?
That is
That's
Pauline.
Pauline.
It is Pauline. It's so many. We've got hundreds of volunteers across our 26 shops. We've got the donation centres that you mentioned as well. It's a very big operation, and the people come in and they do everything. So they will be on the till. They will sort garments and bric-a-brac and every sort of other item that is under the sun. The breadth of what we have donated is incredible. They merchandise the stores, they clean the stores, they do the administration, they're on the till, they serve, and you mentioned being an ambassador. They're there talking, encouraging, meeting that community need for people, and whether it is just somebody's coming in for a chat and saying, gosh, it's nice that I can come into this environment and feel comfortable, it's somebody to talk to, or whether it's talking about the hospice services, or whether it's simply they want to come in and have a nice new outfit. It's just incredibly wide-ranging and varied. But, as an organisation, there's about £1 million from recollection. You can correct me, Tamsin, I know, but it's around about £1 million that we get from the NHS to fund what the hospice does. So retail as a group generates that same amount. And then there's millions more that come from legacy investments and from the fundraising work and so many other channels. But it's hugely vital.
And the other thing I think that I've discovered when I've been going around the shops, and you've heard this, I know, Frazer, is that people talk about being proud to be part of a community.
Yeah.
In two ways: the community within where you're working, so soon perhaps the fundraisers are your community, but also the community that you serve in. Do you feel that sense of community? Do you feel you're helping St Blazey, for instance?
Yes, I do. I think it's a hub, really, where we cover such a wide area. There's Foy, for instance. There's no charity shops in Foy, and people donate wonderful stuff from Foy. We get some really good clothing, especially. But yes, I think it draws all the community in, and people realise how much the hospice needs our help. And yes, people from Lostwithiel, and we even have regular people from Bodmin that come over. I know there's a lovely shop in Bodmin, but whenever I'm there, a Wednesday or a Friday, these ladies come over from Bodmin, and lots from Lostwithiel, as I said. All the outlying little villages, they all come in to this central place where they just browse and enjoy half an hour perhaps and chat to everybody. So it's like a little social hub, really, of the community.
And do you get that community feel being amongst colleagues?
Well, yes. I mean, personally, I don't meet the public,
No.
but, only if I help at a fundraising event.
I've seen you at Run Falmouth, putting all those runners in their place.
Right.
Yeah, I enjoy doing things like that and speaking to a lot of people. I think the one thing that I did find when I left work was that I'd almost lost the art of conversation, I suppose, because I wasn't speaking to as many people, and so to meet people like the entrance at Run Falmouth, and also I found that I didn't want to be, like you said, right in the front. I wanted to be a background person. I've always been more of a background person, and so fundraising suited me down to the ground. That I was asked in the beginning, because I had admin skills as well, whether I would work as a receptionist at the hospice. But for me, that was not the right choice, and I was given that opportunity. And so if you are volunteering, you do tend to find what's right for you. And the hospice was very accommodating, so
Yeah.
I'd like to thank them for what they did for me. It certainly has improved my life tremendously in the last, how many years have I been retired? 8.
I think the other thing that's come out of it for me, you mentioned just now about choosing the option of what it is you want to do. And I too sit quite close to the reception, and I see what happens in the reception, and I'm thinking, they've got a set of skills that I possibly don't feel that I could bring at the moment. So I'm quite happy to sit in the room behind reception, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that has become obvious to me as a volunteer, and it's purely my choice whether I take it up or not, but there is quite an extensive amount of training and learning that is available through the CHC Blue Stream section. Even as volunteers, there are things that yes, there are things we have to do because of the legislation around data protection and things like that. But there are lots of other things that if I wanted to, I could go on and do more of. My fear when I first started doing tasks for Jenny was that I was going to completely mess up her Excel spreadsheets, because even though I've used them I've only ever used read-only. I've never had to input information.
Dare to go in there.
Yeah, I've got access to the master copy, you know. And hey ho, she's teaching me and I'm learning, and I'm fairly confident.
Just
now.
making a note of that. There's someone who knows how to use an Excel spreadsheet. Hooray!
Well, not to withdraw reports or anything like that, but to input data and to categorise it. But so for me, it's about brain work as well. It's about learning new skills. You know?
Yeah, I didn't dare do anything wrong on Razor's Edge, or I knew I'd be out the door.
So to explain, Razor's Edge is a database
Yes.
which the fundraising team use,
Yes.
and I'm frightened of it.
That
So
explains that. I've seen that written in some of the paperwork. I thought, what is this Razor's
I
Edge?
wasn't frightened of the database. I was frightened of the people who looked up.
but once you get confident, and,
Yes.
and actually,
Yes.
Fraser, listening to the conversation today, one of the things that came up quite early on was the fact that we can help gear the time commitment to the person, can't we? Not just the job, but the time, and I think that's important.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if a day is not necessary, or a slot is not necessarily suitable for you, I've found that people are very accommodating and will let you change a day.
Flexible.
Yeah.
And we want that. I think that's the whole point,
Yeah.
isn't it? We call it the gift of time for a reason. You know, we're very, very conscious, and when we were looking at how do we encourage and entice people to come and volunteer with us, it is about that. You know, we know that you are, through huge generosity, bringing a gift to us every time you come in, and that brings something. We've talked about the skills, and you've all mentioned different skills. It amazes me when I'm out and about talking to people, the breadth of skills and experience and knowledge that people have from all walks of life, all work backgrounds, etc. And that brings so much into any of our environments, whether it's fundraising or retail or wherever. And it's then a very much two-way street. We can get so much from having those people in our stores and elsewhere, and we want it to be a reciprocal environment. So yes, it's absolutely right that we will try and be flexible around the shifts and the patterns and the times, but also in terms of what Annette was saying around training and development, where perhaps there are different reasons, aren't there? We've said it, there are people who are retired and wanting to give more back and not then to let those work skills fade. There are people perhaps who are in between employments or looking to change and transition, and it can give confidence because they may have been out of a work environment, and it's very daunting to go back in. And actually, because a store environment or a hospice environment is friendly and supportive by nature, it means that they can very often restore confidence, learn some new skills, rehome and reuse ones that they've already got but perhaps are lacking confidence in. So,
and of course we've got young volunteers. Exactly. One I know of who works on the reception at Mount Edgecombe, who's hoping her future career will be in the world of paramedic. And of course this is a great way of being able to just start to find out what's it like to be part of a workplace and a work group, put it on the CV. Great conversation when you're applying for university or wherever.
Yes,
I think I've seen applications and where we've had DLE people, Duke of Edinburgh people as well.
That's right.
And there are people with special needs who come in with support workers, and I think the retail side of it has been very accommodating in looking at what their strengths are, what their skills are, and utilising them.
I think they're very clever, the shop managers as well. And interestingly, me and my colleagues, we were at a shop the other day, spending a day. We sort of took over and we were learning about volunteering, and very quickly it became obvious who was good at what. So I just walked right past the till. I'm not stopping at the till, but I love steaming.
I know,
and I could stand and steam clothes all day because I can let, like you said, I think I could let things fall out of my head for a while, and it was wonderful. But I've got colleagues who go, "Ooh, something technical. I can, get into that."
That's right.
I'd be alphabetising the DVDs.
Yes,
and we
right.
have people doing just that, and we have them doing it with the books, and if that's what somebody enjoys and they're able to restock and put them in, that we are not going to say no. So and I think this is the thing, isn't it? It's about saying to people, look, you've all got skills, come in, let's find out what they are. You may not know before you arrive actually what is going to float your boat, but when you get there, it can be. I would never admit it normally because otherwise I'll be ironing at home, but I find this on the very rare occasions I get to do it, I find the steaming relatively therapeutic. Alas, I don't have one of the steamers at home. There's apparently something called an iron, but I try and ignore that.
That's right.
And there are bits and pieces. I do go on the I used to quite like doing the tills, but I don't do it very often, so I'm always conscious that if I am there and I make a mess, that's going to get told around the whole network, so I try and keep away. But you find different things that you enjoy.
That's right.
I quite enjoy the merchandising side, so it's going in and having a look at how are things placed, how does that work from a flow point of view, and it's fascinating to watch people come out of their shells very often in terms of, well, I thought I would come in and just do this, or I would sort this item, or I would size cube this, or whatever, and then suddenly they're trying something new and developing, and it's a great experience, and it's a great joy to watch that as people find it.
And also in the shops particularly, you find groups of friends volunteer together.
Yes, you do indeed.
Well, I think it was Tintagel shop I went to once, and there's a group of 3 ladies, and they're great friends, and one of their activities each week is the 3 of them go and do a shift in the shop.
We have that as well, exactly. I get many sort of customers that come in and they say, we wouldn't mind doing some volunteering, but have you got to sort out dirty clothes? Have you got to get your hands dirty? And I say, everything that comes to us is either filtered from here, which it is now. I say, no, just come and give us just a few hours and you can find out what you'd like to do. And I can think of many that have come in, I don't want to go out in the shop, you want to go in the rear, and just steam and sort and price and, get it all ready for the shop. But then as the months go on doing that, you can see their confidence getting much higher and they think, oh, we will go out in the shop. And then we've got a lovely lady who dresses our window beautifully, and she'd never done anything like it before. And she comes in and the people that walk past to go to the co-op say, "Oh, your window's looking absolutely beautiful." Now, she's got the skills of putting all the colours and the bags and the shoes. It's just a real skill, you know. And going back to the youngsters, I worked in Duke of Edinburgh's ward for many years in County Hall, and we've had several young people doing their service. And, they're making notes what they're doing. And like I said to each of them, you put that on a CV later on, that you did community work, did your service section of the D.of.E. It all adds. If there's, say, 6 candidates being interviewed, but I did a lot of staffing appointments of teaching staff, and you look through all these applications and you pick out, this person did a D.of.E. skill in a hospice shop, that one immediately goes on the short list and you get them talking about it. So it's a real asset and skill to the young person that can eventually give them more chance of getting a good job at the end of it.
And there are future customers, and I think it's interesting. I think when I was younger, there was perhaps more of a stigma for young guys going into charity. It wasn't the done thing, and now something that really pleases me when I'm out and about is watching youngsters coming in. It's absolutely routine. It's part of what they do, and it's males, it's females, it's everybody coming in, and that's absolutely what you want. And it fits in with a change, I guess, in environmental awareness and ethical trade. People are very conscious of fast fashion and the need to reuse. There's so many different hooks, aren't there? And I think we're just very grateful for anybody being interested. And the hope is that there is something then for everybody, for whatever their motivation, whether that's as a customer or as a volunteer. There should be something. There is, I think, in such a varied organisation, there is something for everyone. I think it's a wonderful thing for young people coming in and being able to learn a little bit about the work environment as well, because that's quite daunting, isn't it, when you break into a work environment for the first time. But if you've had that little bit of exposure where, on your own, not just the school tells you to do something, but you come in and you understand that you need to be presented, and you come in at a particular time and you're doing those hours, and you can see the interaction between staff and others. That's really beneficial, and I think there's a big development for people and a help.
It starts right at the beginning too, because they have to apply. Yes. And I know we've had conversations in our office where you have a youngster on the end of the phone, so they're having to learn to talk to somebody about what their goals and aspirations are and what they want. So it's almost like a mini informal interview. We try and make it as friendly as we can. And you can tell the different responses you get. I mean, we had one young lady a couple of weeks ago. She just burst into tears and handed the phone over to her mum. So you knew she wasn't ready yet. If she can't deal with just a telephone call, then she's not ready to be. But it's all part of the learning for them, the development, isn't it? And
she's aware then what it is, and will probably not be frightened by it in the front. And that's they've been frightening times more generally, haven't they? I think COVID's been a frightening time for everybody in different ways. And the societal thing of people, we were talking about it when we were around community and how perhaps that's gelled and improved. I think a lot of young people and other people, middle-aged through, who've perhaps done a little bit of volunteering or worked it with their neighbours or seen people, it's sort of encouraged a lot more of that. And this is the next part of that. I hope that we'll see people at different stages of life wanting for different reasons to come in and hopefully learning from it. And whether it's youngsters learning a few of the very basic work skills to confidence as you transition, or you're out of a role at the moment because of the economic impact of COVID. There's so many different things, aren't there, and a lot of benefits.
Well, I think we should end this by using you, and I am going to use the word using, to be human speaking adverts. So I'd like each of you to tell us why you should consider being a volunteer. And Pauline, you can kick off.
I just feel if you have a few free hours per week that you would love to meet the challenges of life, to go in and meet new people, learn new skills, just totally enjoy a few hours interacting with your little team of people, and giving something so worthwhile back to the hospice, who certainly needs more funding than ever. These last few months must have been terrible with the shops all being closed, So just go to your local hospice shop and offer a few hours per week, and I know that you would totally enjoy and benefit personally as well, and just enjoy a lovely few hours there and feel better for it.
It's your turn, Sue.
Oh dear. Well, I'm sure everyone has skills that they can offer, and it does improve your, I don't know how to say it, your mentality to feel that you are doing something good for such a worthy cause. You can give whatever time that you've got, and it is a two-way benefit. Certainly if you are on your own, I found, having retired, it really brought me back to life again, that it gave me a purpose, and I'm so grateful for that.
Brilliant. 2 good adverts. No pressure, Frazer, and you're not being left out.
Well, I'm on the other side of this, aren't I? It's very hard. There's a huge self-interest. We need you. That's the honest truth. We need people, whatever the skill set, whatever the motivation. The hospice does phenomenal work. I'm in awe when I go and I see what the clinical teams and the community teams do. Hospice care touches everyone at some stage and in different ways. There are opportunities. You may not think of them, you may not see how you can fit into that puzzle, but ultimately if you've got a few hours and you are prepared to give us a chance, there is something that you can do, you can bring, that will do a huge amount for the hospice, and we hope will do a huge amount for you and to give you benefits and enjoyment as well.
It's always tough coming last to that. I feel bad now.
I'm going to say ditto. No. I very much think it's a two-way thing. I think it's about what you have to offer. If you have an emotional tie with the fact that it's a Cornish charity, and like you said, most people in the county will have had some relative or friend been affected by cancer or any life-limiting condition. But it's about using those skills, being useful, feeling valued, because I get it back as well. I get that feeling of I'm doing something worthwhile. Somebody appreciates the skills that I've got. Nothing better than somebody saying to you, you dealt with that phone call very, very, very nicely. Or even when somebody says to me down the phone, it was nice to chat to you. So it's about feeling valued. It's about having a purpose. I'm slightly the opposite of Sue in that I still have my husband at home, but it got to a point in lockdown where, we just both needed our space. And our conversation had dried up between the two of us, apart from what COVID figures were, or what the dreaded news was for that day. It was boring as anything. But by going out and seeing different people and meeting new people and learning about different people's hobbies and having things to chat about. I've got a new WhatsApp friend now, and so there's that side of it as well. So it is definitely a two-way thing, and it is the fact that it is so flexible, and you can't imagine the number of different skills or roles that you could bring to volunteering within Cornwall Hospice Care. It doesn't have to be in a shop, it doesn't have to be admin. There are lots of other things that you could be doing.
We are truly blessed with the volunteers we've got.
Yeah.
What a fascinating chat. Thank you so much for giving up yet more of your time to come and talk to us about volunteering, because it is such an important part. And to see you all smiling, that's not a grimace, is it? With your arms behind your back because we were asked to do this. No, you're smiling, and you've really given an insight which hopefully people will find valuable. Thank you so much for your time, Sue, Annette and Pauline, for joining us. You've been listening to our Cornwall Hospice Care podcast, Two Old Choughs, A Tale of Two Hospices.